I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
I love to see my people party with me, man. Good to see you, Black Brown, Sweet Nikita, Miss Rhonda. Hey, happy birthday, Miss J. Sweet Sharita, party with me all night long. Say what? That's right, baby. Bring it to the front. Hey, Janine, well, guess what? Hey, when I see you, yeah, I get a little happy. Hey, Black Brown, I get a little happy when I see you. What? Baby. When I see you, yeah, I get a little happy. Hey, Francine, I get a little happy when you party with me. Well, guess what? When I see you, yeah. Hey, Jay, hey, Randy, I get happy when you party with me. Guess what? When I see you, yeah, yeah. Hey, Cole, I get a little happy. Happy when I see you. What? When I see you, yeah. Listen, fellas, I put your picture on my mirror. Start to blush when somebody says your name. And my stomach is a pain. See you walk in my direction, I go the other way. I start to stutter when I speak. Try to stand, but my knees go weak. What's happening to me in your body? Can you tell me what it means? I lay my head on my pillow. He got me staring out the window. We're gonna stop for a sign. That's the reason why. Oh, yeah. Hey, see you. Hey, Marlon, you sexy boy. Hey. Oh, no.
I gotta be right on time when I see you.
When I see you. Hey fellas, listen. I scribble X and O's on my notebook, checking out my hair and my nails. I feel myself up in the zone. I get nervous when you call. Say I'm not home. See your face. I hear my favorite song. Should I send an email at home? I wonder if you know, or do you have a clue? Yeah, I lay my head on my pillow. He got me staring out the window. We're gonna stop for a sign. That's the reason why. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See you. Yeah. Marlon, so sexy boy. Oh, no. When I see you. Listen, something now is taking over me. Oh, yeah. I'm not gonna run. I'm just gonna stand here and see. Oh, yeah.
Always on my mind.
Oh, no.
Around, I get shy when I see you.
See you, yeah. See this so sexy boy, yeah. Oh no, when I see you. Hey Fox, hold me down, listen. Well, guess what? When I see you, yeah. Hey, sweet Savita, hey, get happy when you party with me. Hey, Janine, when I see you, yeah, I get a little happy. Hey, Tony, I get a little happy when you party with me. Hey, Tim, when I see you.
All right. Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to I Mix What I Like. I'm Jared Ball. Happy to be back with you all. Please do all the things. All the things. Thank you all for making it. I didn't have thanks you all for being, thanks to all those who are here live and those, especially given that I didn't have put out a lot of notice on this one. Wasn't entirely sure I was going to be able to get to it today. But I'm definitely happy to have been able to. And if you've seen this later, peace and welcome to you as well. But I do have a couple things, and extending from this detour I've taken into the world of JohnBrown, and please see all the other videos that have, everything. Yeah. But so without belaboring it too much, I wanted to start by highlighting a portion of a discussion that we had yesterday, and a big shout out to everybody who was able to be there live in Newark yesterday for our very special Saturdays with Renee Newark, New Jersey event yesterday, featuring MtumeGant and Geechee Yaw and Dr. Todd Stephen Burrows and Hiram Rivera. It was and many others. It was a great time. Yeah, we saw
You just don't read, beloved.
Was in the building, and yeah, it was a great day, a great program, a lot of fun. The event hosts were remarkable. So if you did miss it, please check that show from yesterday. It's on Black Liberation Media, of course, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. But there was a part of that discussion that actually worked out to perfectly fit with what I'm talking about here, and I want to start there.
Make this movie, right? And where you go to do that is to the white people in Hollywood. Your intent is told to me based simply on that decision, right? Because not being funny, Tume, you just finished the project. Did you go to Hollywood and the white people to ask? No, right?
But tell the truth.
How much should the check be?
I'm saying, no, tell the truth.
Go ahead.
If the Warner Brothers came to you and said, you get the next Ryan Coogler bucket of money if you make Creed 7.
Creed 7?
Like you... No, I'm just playing. I mean,
I could tell my JohnBrown story now.
Please,
please,
go.
Please.
So
please.
we were in the chat about, I think it's like 7-8 years ago. I got approached by two white men to rewrite a script about JohnBrown. Right? So I was like, oh, let me read it. I read it. It wasn't a very good script. It was very, very metaphysical, like, him having like visions, and it was very Braveheart, right? They had a brother with a gun next to him. It was like a sidekick. It was. So I read it. I read a little bit about Brown. I was like, well, it was kind of similar to what Jared had said recently on his show. I was like, I want to do a movie about how this is a part of like material history of revolt. And what could we learn about revolution? And then that white people could see like, hey, this is a model to follow. And I gave them a pitch. It wasn't that hard, the pitch, but it was like still in there. And they looked at me like, well, we just kind of want you to like spruce up this script. We don't really want a lot of changes in that kind of direction.
They hit you with the Hollywood shuffle. Could you blacken it up?
Well, no, but that was the one thing. It was actually the side character. They wanted me to make him more dynamic, right? They were like, yeah, we want to give him some speeches. And I feel like they felt like they could probably write for Black people. So I think it's really what they did want. They wanted me to take that character and like spruce him up, make him like a really big character, try to like offer it to like a Lakeith Stanfield or somebody to like, you know, I'm dead serious. You think I'm lying? Like, no, I'm like, that's probably who they would have thought of at the time, right? Get him in there and make the movie. I mean, and that's where you realize those limits. No, like as far as like me, there's a funny story. There's a great.
I'm sorry, real quick before you go in, that's sort of the point I was making fun of a moment ago. Like these are the moments of invitation that people, to Renee's point, as I understand you, are making a conscious choice at some point. In other words, somebody. All right, so definitely please check out that full discussion. The links in the show description, and it almost worked out perfectly because without having it as a plan, I this morning was reading another article about John Brown that one of you sent me. So thank you all very much for that. And I'm reading the article, and it starts talking about something that we were talking about the other day about John Brown, which was, well, I'm going to show you the article in a moment, but it was talking about in the depiction of John Brown in recently emerging media product over the last, well, now 6 years of about John Brown. And it was comparing this series, The GoodLordBird, based on James McBride's book. The series I didn't see, the book I did listen to and talked about the other day. But it was comparing that series and its depiction of Brown's sanity to this film Emperor about Shields Green that also came out in 2020. Or that came out in 2020. I think The GoodLordBird came out in 2023. But and was wanting to make the point that in Emperor, John Brown is depicted not insane at all. And we'll come back to, in part, why that is. But is mostly about Emperor, the Emperor, Shields Green, who fought with Brown and died and was hung eventually. So wait a minute, there's an HBO special about John Brown? Yeah, and we're going to come back to this, two Fs. And salute to Psychic Militancy and Adnan Hussein, who we were in the chat of earlier today. They had a great discussion about all the serious things that I'm not dealing with today, and really good conversation. Also, salute to all of them. But yeah, creative experiments. Please let me know if. Oh, you're saying The GoodLordBird is HBO? No, I know it is an AMC series, and HBO doesn't have it without pay, at least. So, yeah, The GoodLordBird, which is the title of James McBride's book. So definitely check that video. I'll link it to this one as well. But where that was discussed. But anyway, so I'm reading that article early this morning, and I said, you know what, let me watch the movie Emperor. And I did. So I said, so and I don't think this is divulging anything, but in our text group, I text Mtume, Renee, and Geechee and asked if any of them had seen the movie. None had, but and we'll talk more about why in a moment. Why I think why. And Mtume says, concerning Shields, at least when I was doing that early research on him, is that the historical documentation on him was very sparse. Now he didn't say that Mtume didn't say that Shields was. I don't think he said in that clip I just played that Shields was specifically to be the character or not. But he was saying that in the course of doing research on that potential film, he's saying that the documentation on Shields is sparse, so anything that would have to happen in his narrative would be largely made up. And I think this is a very important point for all of our approaches, the Vernon philosophy, critical media literacy, whatever. That a lot of the histories we get told to us in popular media are in fact made up in many ways by the people who were producing the films. So I wrote back, because I had just started watching the movie, and I wrote back, I said perfect, because the first scene, I said, yep, the first scene is a blank screen, or a black screen, and narration from Green's son. Well, at the time I didn't know if it was a son or a descendant, saying, quote, "I have to tell the story the only way I can, through legend." So the movie is even saying, it's even telling you, I don't know how accurate this is or not, but this is the version you're getting, which I just thought was perfectly timed with what Mtume had just said, and with what Mtume was just saying about how he was being encouraged in a certain direction by being offered this chance to make this film about John Brown, and then it just makes so many senses. But just quickly, in terms of the film, I read a very harsh criticism of it that said it was a Hallmark version of 12 Years of Slavery, or 12 Years a Slave. And yeah, it's just not a very well-resourced film. The director, it was a directorial debut for the director. And FBA, FBA folks would be enraged to find out that Shields Green was being portrayed by the very Nigerian actor whose name I thought I had put. Yeah, that's terrible. Once more. But the very Deo Okenyi, forgive me for that, Deo Okenyi. Yeah, let me show you what Deo Okenyi, who I think does a pretty good job with what he's working with in the film. And John Brown is played by the more well-known James Cromwell, and Levi Coffin is played by Bruce Dern. Those are the most well-known folks in the film. Some folks, my man Harry Lennox from the Five Heartbeats is in there. Lil Buck, I don't know who this is, but does not have a speaking part because he plays an enslaved African who had his tongue cut out. McKelty Williamson. Would he make it? I wonder, do any of you watch Prim? What is it? Prim's video, Hood movies, Prim Hood review movies, where he would McKelty be would he be an all-star, a black all-star? I think so. But anyway, the film's not, I mean, there's not a lot of, Notori Naughton is in there. Yeah, Notori Naughton plays his Green's wife. And so, it's not like the most, it's not the highest level of cast. It's not, you could see like with the set design and stuff, they weren't, this wasn't a big budget deal. Keontae, so listen, I'll tell you the truth. So Prim is originally from Baltimore. And when he started his channel, he was still in Baltimore. And I absolutely would have wanted to collaborate at some point. I think his videos are hilarious, and those Prim Hood videos are hilarious. And I think him and Mtume would be an incredible collaboration. So if anybody, I'm just putting that out in the universe, if we can help make that happen, let's do it. Oh man, again is my stream is again. I'm just noticing I'm all blurry again. All right, everybody. This is what we're gonna have to do. Again, my apologies. We're just gonna do a quick pause for the cause. I will come right back, restart the browser and see if that fixes it, because that's just ridiculous. And yeah, hold on 1 second. I'll be right back. All right, hopefully that fixes everything. Again, my apologies for that. But I also am not mad at the thank you. Danielle, still learning. I don't mind the blur, listening while cleaning. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. It does bother me, maybe. All right, yeah. But yeah, I admit that. I admit it. So okay, but as I was saying, in any event, so yeah, I think, you know, it would be nice to see a Shields Green movie well budgeted and told from a certain perspective. I think that this film did ultimately suffer from a lot of the liberal proclivities, liberal counterinsurgent proclivities that we find in popular media, particularly as it relates to these histories. But so that was that. But yeah, I did get a kick out of you know, and again, you know, because this came up in a couple of classes over the even this semester a little bit, but certainly last semester we had a big one, and from time to time, always remember that yes, maybe a Nigerian played Shields Green, although again, why that should be a concern for anyone, it's as historically inaccurate as it is politically childish. But remember, you had Denzel playing Steve Biko, you had Jennifer Hudson playing Winnie Mandela, you had and I'm sure I could think of more if you had what's my man playing in The Last King of Scotland, playing Idi Amin, Forrest Whitaker. So so let's enjoy the Pan-Africanism. You know, let's thank you, 2Fs. I appreciate that. Very kind, very kind. And yes, yeah, yeah. No, it's a different actor. But yeah, but in terms of a continental African portraying an FBA, yeah. And Jill Scott, that's right. She played a South African detective. Do you know I read a bunch of those Bessie Head books once upon a time, actually. I remember enjoying the books. I don't think I watched much of the series, but yeah. So if yeah. And I bet her album is good. Her recent visit to Nucci's Front Porch was phenomenal. So, and I've seen Jilly from Philly live many times actually now. I'm a Jill Scott almost regular over the years. Before she was famous, I was at the 930 Club in DC where the Roots brought her out on stage and had to introduce her as the one who actually sang that song that Erykah Badu made famous. You know, baby, don't worry about when. So I've been I was in the crowd when that happened. And she walked out there, baby, and it was like, ooh. So okay, so that's the, so then there was this what I started to like more about this movie in comparison to the James McBride GoodLordBird book was that the film does begin to show you, at least, and I'm saying that carefully, begin to show you a little bit of the horrors of enslavement, of slavery, where you see you don't get, you know, a lead character as you do in McBride's book saying, you know, basically, you know, slavery, I didn't really suffer much until I started running around with John Brown. So there was that. So you don't really see a good side of slavery here, but at the same time, as one of the critiques that I've read of the film pointed out, you really don't see it as bad as it was either. You know, it's kind of like, you know, so they're doing the more traditional slavery as bad view, but they're not really going that far with it. And it does have, when that article said it had like a Hallmark movie quality, it does have like an after school special kind of quality to it. And you can see why they would, you know, want to follow that same tendency and keep the violence down as well. At one point, though, speaking of the FBA Continental African thing, there is a scene that I actually really liked where, and this is where the Vernon philosophy is, I think, becomes important, because there's a part where, and again, it's very easy to get pulled emotionally, where you see that the slave master on the plantation Shields Green and his family are attached to is the new master in town beats Green's son, whips his son because he sees that his son can read. And this is what precipitates, according to this movie, the legend, Shields Green, who is often said to be or speculated to be someone who's self-emancipated. This is what seems to precipitate, and it makes sense. I mean, it works as a narrative, even if it isn't entirely true or can't be proven, that he sees his son laying there recovering, and he goes and does what all of us would at least want to do. And you get this beautiful moment, to me, where, and this is, again, you got to be, for me, this is where I would have to be careful, because the Vernon philosophy is reminding me, don't get caught up in when you start seeing things you like. You know, he kicks in the door, and on his way to killing all three of the men in the room, the white man that did this, he shoots him once, the dude is wounded, and he starts doing that, you know, boy, don't you know you're going to be, you know, you're a dead man if you do what you're doing. And then then you see the scene cuts to Shields Green holding the gun, pointing at the man, and he says, "I'm already dead," and pulls the trigger again. And I said, and I wrote in my notes, "Oh shit, Afro-pessimism, pop. And I know we have some struggles around here around my engagement with Afro-pessimism, but just so we're clear, whatever the maybe justifiable criticism of and its application and use in the real world, this is my version of it. This is how I've interpreted Frank's work from Incognegro to now. Afro-pessimism doesn't mean give up, give in, don't do anything, don't have allegiances, don't have alliances, don't blah, blah, blah. That's not my interpretation of it. It's, this society has already deemed me dead and inhuman. Therefore, whatever happens is whatever is John Henrik Clarke. How did he put it? I used to have it in my intro. That slavery, those who have enslaved you have taken your humanity, and anything you do to get it back, anything you do to get it back is morally justifiable. And when he said, I'm already dead, pop, pop, and then begins his escape and into the whirlwind. That's my version of it's no, this society has already deemed me unworthy of humanity. So therefore this society is itself unworthy. Pop, pop. I was like, yeah, yeah. Another good thing I liked about the film is that one of the underlying themes that you get throughout that's very clear is the fear among whites of rebellion. And so much of the discussion, including some references to the importance of the press and the depiction of rebellion and escape, it was suppressing Green's actions so that others wouldn't be prone to follow him and join a rebellion or start a rebellion. So I like that part. In the film, and this contradicts other histories that I've come across, including it comes up in I can't remember, but the point is, in the movie, John Brown's crew runs up, finds Shields Green and brings him to meet Frederick Douglass. I think the histories have it more the other way, that Shields Green was already with Douglass, in fact, living with Douglass for some time in Rochester, New York, if I'm not mistaken. And that Douglass says, even though I'm not down with what John Brown is doing, he says, to basically to Green, John Brown's about to do this and I'm not down with it, but and then they depict the scene that John Henrik Clarke used to talk about in his lectures, where I first heard of the line that is quoted almost verbatim. So I suspect that there's some history that is depicting this that people are referring to, where Douglass and Shields Green are having this discussion about, John Brown's about to do this thing, and Douglass saying, I don't think this is the right thing to do. And Green says, we can't all fight this war with the pen, Mr. Douglass. Some of us are best equipped to fight this war with the gun. I think I'll go with the old man. Then that's a line John Henrik Clarke and others used to always quote, that Shields Green said, I think I'll go with the old man, meaning with John Brown. And I get it. And then you see the raid, it's more or less, it happens quickly. They're overrun by the troops, and then they make it like the Union troops, but it was Robert E. Lee's men that I've just learned recently were the ones that captured John Brown. It wasn't what are depicted in here as Union soldiers, basically. So, but the real problem is, the movie, people with greater expertise in terms of pacing, script writing, scene direction, editing. I think there are massive problems with all of those things in this film. The only really good thing about the film are the things that I sort of quickly identified, and the fact that it's over in like 90 minutes or so. It's not a long film, so they at least knew to end it quickly. And then the film ends, I guess it's a spoiler, I don't know, it's 6 years old, so it's, but because you're not really clear what happens to Shields' son. His wife is killed. He runs off without being able to get his son, so you don't know what happens to his son. But you see at the end of the movie, going back to the point that I started with, and with going back to Mtume's point, Tommy, his son, who we know was already, as a little boy, knew how to read, comes in as a young man, well-dressed, and hands this white editor the book, or publisher the book, and says, and then the white man says, is it a true story? And then the son says, it's true to me. So Now, I will say just anecdotally and somewhat, self-referentially, that as I've said a lot about my own experience, most of what I understand about both sides of my family is legend and mythology. So I identified with that part and the look on his son's face when he hands the book. And it's a look of the way I interpreted it, and this is me projecting, I'm sure, but the way I interpreted it was this world took my father-son relationship from me. So I'm going to produce and promote and project onto this world the best, most radical version of that man that I can. So you want to enslave my father and then take him away and force him to escape and then die fighting, or being hung, fighting for the freedom of us all. And I don't know. I don't have to. The details. I don't know. But this is the mythology. This is the legend I'm working off of. And I was like, I get it. I can identify with that. So, oh, that's a good point. They were all union. So Robert E. Lee was wearing blue? Is that right? I understand the split hadn't happened yet, but I know the but that part I wouldn't. You know what? I'm just good. Let me clarify. I don't know. So yeah, you might be right. But I don't recall the film acknowledging that the man who was leading that army was Robert E. Lee either. Yes, we are. Actually, I usually like to make the joke. No, we're not live, but yes, we are live. And welcome, Shitty Macha. Good to see you. You know what? I don't think I've seen this. So is this what you're talking about? They get into John Brown and all of that? I have to get into that too. I have to, this might become yet another prolonged rabbit. I've really been enjoying this stuff. And as you'll see with this article, I'm gonna show you in a second. This John Brown stuff here, boy. Sorry, everybody. I think I might have to tend this. Yeah, could you hear me? No, we can't hear you. No doubt. The best community. Okay, yeah, I'll get into it. I'll get into this. I'll look at it. It's not a Ken Burns piece, is it? I don't have an answer to this. What was John Brown's stance on indigenous resistance? I haven't seen anything yet really get into or discuss, not that I remember, what he was saying about that. But following his logic, he would say that everybody has a right to participate in this new American adventure. Again, he was still a patriot, as they say. He was not. He was still. The founding fathers weren't right per se or perfect per se, but he was on with their project. So I don't want to. As far as I could tell so far, and I admit this is the most most time I've spent outside of reading Du Bois's book years ago and John Brown's statement at his trial years ago. This is the most time I've spent on John Brown. These last, I don't know. I think it took me 2 months to actually finish listening to the book. It was a slow motion thing. And I'm sure Nick Estes would have a good answer to that question, and many others. Man, speaking of that, did you all see the conversation that he just hosted about what's the phrase? The the academic phrase for the pretendian problem. Ooh. The academic pretendian problem. I just watched that about I don't know, a few days ago. Son. So many basically white scholars claiming their indigeneity and becoming big time academics. They were talking about, apparently, I'm not familiar with the field well enough, but big time names made careers. What's up, Carlos? Made careers pretending to be indigenous. And that episode was damn good. I was like, I showed up late for the live and went back and watched it immediately from the beginning. It was like, one day I want to get to that level of hate. That joint was bananas. I said, oh my goodness. But the shamelessness of some of these folks out here is crazy. I mean, it's crazy. And the amount of people that are saying, like so-and-so, my great grandmother said that we were such and such. And that's that. I mean, and that's like and they anyway, they went into all of that. You gotta, I said, oh man. All right. Speaking of enslavement, I got a wild to me email. I got an email from a college student that said that they got an assignment that required us, as they say, the course required us to write a short essay comparing the constitutional arguments in Dred Scott and Plessy. All right. Let's see. In an experiences in Black Studies course. One assignment in the course required us to, and this is a little bit unclear in the writing here, the assignment to write a short essay, compare the constitutional arguments of Dred Scott and Plessy. Okay. They write, I used a little description that very briefly explained that your book, The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power, was about, and how I thought I could tie it into a comparison of Dred Scott and Plessy. My professor apparently did not like me using your book because he gave me a 0 out of 20 for a grade. Now, I do understand that I'm not the greatest writer in the world, but I thought that a 0 was quite harsh for something that I genuinely put time and effort in for me to get no credit for. It seems a bit unfair, especially that this is also being an introductory course. The feedback they got was, you seem to have just made up your own assignment. No disrespect to all the stuff about Ball, but it has nothing to do with the material you read in my course, and it does not compare the legal arguments as required in the assignment. Did you read the question? So they sent me the paper, and they told me who the professor is. I don't know that I know the professor. I might. I don't know if I'd have to go back to that. But I'm going to respond to them. I asked them to send me I said, if you want me to read it, I'll read it, and I'll give them my 2 cents. And I'm going to give it a more careful reread and before I respond to them. But what I thought was interesting is that the attempt here is to say that my argument around the mythology around buying power is attempting to expose mythology that confuses the structural realities in terms of how, in this case, Black people are treated or placed in society. That there are, I think what they're even saying, unspoken, unwritten social rules that supersede even what's on the paper when it comes to how Black people would be treated. And then they go in to make the point, and this is how you could end up with Dred Scott losing his Supreme Court case because the Supreme Court says you're not even a human, or you're not a citizen, you don't deserve citizenship rights, your property. So meaning that the mythology around the legal code and the claims of and it's funny because in The Emperor, at the end of the scene, there's the leader of the army trying to capture John Brown. It says, and John Brown says, I'm doing this because the founders of this country said everyone, everyone has a right to pursue love, whatever, blah, 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 all that other stuff. And the guy yells back to him and says, Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. And then John Brown says, well, that's all well and good because he's not my final authority. I refer to a higher authority who does say that all of these rights of humanity should apply to all. So I think that's what the student is doing and was attempting to do, and I appreciate that. Where I might become oddly defensive of the faculty's position here is I don't see enough in what is sent me. What is the actual assignment? What was the full context and what was being expected? I do admit, though, I am a soft grader. So if someone, especially in an introductory class, demonstrated putting in effort, even if I thought they missed all of the points, I wouldn't give them a 0. But I'm honored that somebody was attempted to, make even more relevance out of my argument. But they I don't know. To be fair, I don't know. But I think a 0 is a little harsh. A 0 is a little bit harsh. All right. Okay. So that was all right. So real quick, this is complete. This is complete. A complete segue. Complete. My brother-in-law sent me this actually, and I thought it was pretty cool because I kind of saw some of this a little bit. Check this out. So just in case anybody is not aware, I live in now and grew up in Howard County, Maryland. So this is relevant here. So check this out.
Here, not him. This dude right here is Howard County.
Hold on. I hate how you can't get it to really start from the beginning. All right. I already missed it. So he starts off by saying, this is the GOAT of Howard County. And it looks like he's pointing to this dude here. And it says Mount Hebron. This white dude here is wearing Mount Hebron. Now, what's interesting, wait a second, because that's the high school I went to. But wait a second.
This dude right here is Howard County's GOAT. And there's no arguing, bro. And I'm about.
Okay, that's why they did. Okay, sorry, because they're talking about the black dude in the picture that comes into the picture, but Mount Hebron High School, that's the high school that I went to for 1 year, and I witnessed some of this at least.
Here, not him. This dude right here is Howard County's GOAT. And there's no arguing, bro. And I'm about to tell you why. Howard County legend, Barry Young. Kids, I'm about to put y'all on. Pay attention. Mount Hebron GOAT. And when he graduated back in 1987, he was the Maryland Public School all-time leading scorer. 2,153, bruh? That record recently got broken by Cam Ward. He went to Largo. And now he's at Michigan State. Barry led Mount Hebron to a state championship his freshman year. ESPN National Freshman of the Year. 4-time All-County. 4-time All-Metro. All-Metro Player of the Year. Howard County Player of the Year. Averaged 28 points for both his junior and senior year. Scored 51 points against Howard. County record to this day. was a Street and Smith All-American, bro. Committed to UNLV to play for Coach Tart the Shark. This dude used to suck water out of towels. Played with these 3 killers who all went first round lottery. Yeah, he was part of that UNLV team that was running through teams and beating them by 50, bro. Here's some highlights. Barry was a sharpshooter on 35 and 5. Eventual national champions, bro. I mean, when I tell you they used to run through teams, bro, think about this. They won the national championship in 1990. They beat Duke 103-73, bro. And you know who was on that team getting buckets? Barry Young, Hoco legend, Mount Hebron legend. And kids, if you didn't know, now you know. And I'm glad you paid attention. Coach McCoy out. Oh, wait. Let me tell you about Perry, bro.
So I was there for 1 year in 10th grade and saw Barry Young play. And I was there when the late great Coach John Thompson came to the school to recruit him. And I remember thinking, man, wow, John Thompson is in my high school. I was like, this is crazy. And oh, that's messed up. 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 Shame. Now you got Yipper in there too. No, he wasn't a LeBron though. And what I was really going to say is that the video there kind of did him, look, he was great, but to be fair, I think I looked it up. He averaged, at UNLV, he was there for 2 years. He played very few minutes and scored, he wasn't doing a lot. Let's see. He averaged 6 points his first year and then 4 points his second year. But you could see who he was playing with. I mean, he was playing with Augman and Grandmama and all of them. He was, so I mean, as dominant as he was in Howard County, and it was just a reminder of how great some of these players really are at the top level. And that night, I remember, oh my goodness, in Norfolk, Virginia, in the bar on the naval base, watching that game. Oh man, it was magical because it was a race war. I mean, I hope people understand that. It was UNLV, who were almost an all-black team, who were considered the thugs, and it was against the prim and proper black folks and the white folks at Duke. And in the bar, that was the divide. It was, at least this is how I remember it. It was a very racially divided, hostile. And when they got trounced, and of course Duke got them, the following year, it was beautiful. So, but okay, I just wanted to shout out. So salute to Barry Young in my 1 year at Mount Hebron. All right. Do you know what I did though? I forgot to do. I went out of order. I completely forgot to. My bad. I moved on without. Let me go back to this article. I'm not finished with the John Brown stuff. My bad. Okay. This article, I really enjoyed it. Brigitte Fielder, Black Madness, White Violence, and John Brown's Legacy. Oh, why was I only there for 1 year? Because, oh man, the very short version is it was not a school I was zoned to be in, and I had issues. And yeah, so I was only there for 1 year, and then went to another Quaker private school in Silver Spring, Thornton Friends. So I went from Baltimore Friends to Mount Hebron to Thornton Friends. Good Quaker school education, good liberal white Quaker private school education. Yeah. but it was all a struggle. It was all a lot of teenage issues, but I'm glad, that was a great moment. That moment was when John Thompson was in there was a great moment. You went to Sidwell. Oh, so I always understood Sidwell to be like the real Friends school in that area. And I was at the bootleg Problem Child Friends school. But I don't know if that's accurate. That was just always my feeling at the time. I don't remember Preston Browning. I don't remember Preston. Did Preston go to Thornton Friends or Baltimore Friends? All right. Okay. Wait, there was some, I forgot this one here. As of right this moment, Culture 88, Diallo and I don't have the humorous IG post notwithstanding. Diallo and I don't know what's going on. We'll have to see. Is several things that are being attempted behind scenes. So we'll have to see. I don't know. Stay tuned. Oh yeah, no, I didn't go to Sidwell. Another Quaker private school. So they were expensive schools for those who could afford them. They also had scholarships and well, I don't know what the exact details were, but they had severe financial assistance for some of us, which is one of the reasons why I was not asked to come back to Baltimore Friends. Because if they're going to give you the money to go there, they want you to actually do well. And on some level, I can understand that. There's no internet beef. Yeah, I'm sure they had good financial aid. Baltimore Friends had really good financial aid, and then Thornton had something going on. But Thornton was literally in one room. It was like one small house. It was not like it was literally a house converted into a school. So it was a very small. Wow, thank you for the super chat. Villainous Ninja, peace to Dr. Ball. The Myth and Black Power argument, I thought, had an Afro-pessimist reading rather than purely Marxist material dialect. Dr. Ball, I also suggest we give tribute to revolutionary thinker Selamewat Teref. Sorry for mispronouncing that. Please email, Dr. Ball will email, please email me. Is that what you're saying you're going to do? Please do that, yes. Honestly, I don't know if my Buying Power book has either a Marxist-Leninist or an Afro-pessimist reading in it. So, I don't know. Dr. Ball and Diallo are the Undertaker and Kane online intellectuals. We got the Brothers of Destruction for a brief, glorious period. Wow. That sounds like a wrestling reference. I'm sure it's dope. Anyway, all right. Let me focus for a second. Let me get out of the chat. So this article again was sent me, and I really appreciate it. Please continue, everyone, to do that, and I'll hope to get to as much of them as I can because I like it. I enjoy it. And the link is already in the show description. There's several. This is part of a series of relatively small articles. I think all about Brown. I'll have to double check, but. The short of it is it says here, Black Madness, White Violence, and John Brown's Legacy. And a lot of what the article here is about is how and why was John Brown depicted over time as insane. And a lot of it had to do with his attachment to Black liberation and violence against whites in service of that liberation. This is where I got that suggestion. 2 cinematic depictions of the radical abolitionists debuted in 2020. So they both were in 2020. The Showtime miniseries Good Lord Bird and the adaptation of James McBride's 2013 novel and Emperor, Mark Amin's film, based rather loosely on the life of Shields Green, a possibly self-emancipated Black man who participated in Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. As she notes, the John Brown's intentions and importance and sanity are still up for debate, according to some. But as she writes, but the idea of Brown's madness discourages taking such solidarity seriously. The specter of Brown's madness overshadows discussions of him in ways that prevent the productive tracing of his relationship to white racist violence. And this is brought up importantly in the context of 2020's Black Lives Matter demonstrations. And this was something that came up on our discussion with Geechee, Renee, and Mtume yesterday in Newark, that these films are produced, well, my paraphrasing an argument at least is in way of saying it would be that these films are produced in the context where those who are producing them are aware of the tendencies of people in the community, in the streets, in the society. And consciously or not, there is an attempt to reflect. And I think we referenced people talking about Sinners and another, what was the One Battle After Another in terms of their Academy Award efforts, that they were being considered for Academy Awards because they did overtly mean to address themselves to the feelings of the people in the society. So our point, at least certainly, I think all of our collective point, but is that the desire then is to address from the perspective of a ruling elite those tendencies and concerns among people in society in a way that will not encourage them any further or any more to the left, certainly. So she says here, I here consider Brown alongside the racialization of both madness and violence. The idea of Brown's madness racialized as Black pathologizes his refusal to adhere to the most familiar genres of white violence, marking his illegibility within the system that understood white violence only as aligned with white supremacy. So he is illegible to a society that can only consider violence against Black people. And this article, I think, and another one in another context about another film that I was looking at separately, make a similar point that I certainly have made in my critiques over the years of a lot of these films, certainly of that Nate Parker film about Nat Turner that we did talk about in Newark yesterday a little bit, that Hollywood is fine depicting the violence Black people suffer and having Black people suffer all the worst forms of abuse, all depicted graphically on film. But perfectly in the Nate Parker film about Nat Turner, when it comes time for whites to die at the hands of Black people, they literally in that movie, it does the Alfred Hitchcock cut, where you see the axe handle go up, you see the blood splatter on the wall, but that's it. After 90 minutes of 2 hours of graphically depicted Black suffering, the slave, the slave master is dispatched literally off camera. So they're bringing that up here, and extending it from the screen to society and saying Brown has to be depicted as insane because he would not only want to fight for and with Black people, but he committed the greatest crime of killing white men in service of that goal. Robert W. Mary critiques characterizing Lincoln as an admirer of Brown. So she's going through some of the discussion in literature about Brown that comes up is interesting. And I admit not remembering if I ever knew this or knowing this at all, that Lincoln claimed to be an admirer of John Brown. Ultimately, Mary argues that Reynolds can't get around the fact that Lincoln was a saintly genius while Brown was a murderer, traitor, and a madman. So in a book about Lincoln written by David Reynolds, being critiqued by Robert Mary is saying Reynolds, even as he acknowledges Lincoln admired Brown, he still had to juxtapose Lincoln as a saintly genius, and Brown was still a treacherous madman. She also has an interesting section here about anti-racism and disability, and that there is an ableist attachment of insanity to Black liberation, even when being fought for by a white man. So that, again, any desire to support Black liberation has to be attached by any of those involved with some level of insanity. And this was a fun part to come back to. I know some of us have come across this Samuel Cartwright character over the years, but the use of mad deliberately employs a lexical range that includes insanity, cognitive disability, anger, and for anyone who remembers the slang of the 1990s, excess. Brown may not have been insane or disabled, but he was mad, angry at the many injustices of slavery. But going back to some of the history around how that's depicted psychologically, in 1851, the pro-slavery Southern physician Samuel Cartwright coined terms describing two imaginary racialized mental illnesses. And I'd like to think that I and most of us suffer from both, if not one, both of them. The first, drapetomania, described a supposed condition that caused enslaved Black people to flee slavery. Amen. Drapetomaniac all day. The second, and this one I know I have. The second, dysastasia Ethiopica is what I'm obviously trying to. Dysastasia Ethiopica was ostensibly the cause of laziness among enslaved Black people who resisted forced labor, and especially among free Black people whose labor had to be purchased for white benefit. White people have pretended that Black people were mad for desiring freedom or resisting forced labor, pathologizing their justified anger and resistance. Like Black people, Brown was mad, and rightly so. And absolutely, maybe even more than drapetomania, I know I have dysasia Ethiopica. Oh man, remember that 18th century Marxist, The Right to be Lazy essay? I got to link that in here too, because that was fun too. I'm all about that. Both sides, from the European blood, I got the Marxist right to be lazy, and from the African blood, I got the dysasia Ethiopica. As she writes here, Black lives mattered so much to Brown that he used violence to effect Black liberty. And I have to say, I like the way that she wrote that, and I wonder what that means in terms of us today. Because based on Brigitte Fielder's standard, if I'm reading her correctly, we don't love ourselves enough. We don't think we matter enough. Critics past and present have cited Brown's violence as their main justification for disapproval, but violence alone did not earn their disapproval. It was violence committed in the name of Black liberation. And that characterization is the foremost reason for Brown's continued prominence. And remember, he said that at his own trial. He said very clearly, if I had done this for the rich and the white, I'd have been a hero. Countless Black people fought for their freedom, often illegally and often violently. According to Kelly Carter Jackson, for many white Americans, Brown represented the Black political violence that they understood in Haiti and feared in America. Brown's legacy is intertwined with a fear of Black violence, accompanied by a propensity to privilege the performance of nonviolence and deny the possibility of and utility of violence, and the great accelerator in American emancipation. By the way, Kelly Carter Jackson's book, we what is the exact title? I haven't read it carefully enough and haven't read too much of it yet, but I have it here. And in it, she writes, let me get the title. We Refuse, a forceful history of Black resistance. But in it though, she says, again, I'm confused. She just says Harriet didn't show up she committed to fight with Brown, but didn't show up. And it's just left to not why. There's a lack of clarity as to why she wasn't there in Harper's Ferry. And that doesn't come up at all. I don't even think she's mentioned in Emperor. Now that I think about it, I don't remember hearing her name at all. They talk about the Underground Railroad. I'm sure they at least mentioned her, and I didn't catch it. But it's not discussed that she was going to be there or why she wasn't. And John Brown's raid is not. John Brown is a really background character in this film, and given the way it looked like they were depicting him, even though the film's not very well made, it's kind of unfortunate. This version of John Brown might have been something to see more of. Let's see. Meanwhile, violence was hardly unusual in the antebellum U.S. Certain kinds of people, especially indigenous and Black people, could be beaten and R-worded and K-worded at will, even when their violent antagonists have never been granted the popular opprobrium afforded to Brown. Meanwhile, Black people and their supporters expected not to return this violence with violence. And you could say Black people and their supporters are expected not to return this violence with violence. Despite his own unwillingness to join John Brown's plan for Harper's Ferry, Douglas declined to argue with Brown's reasoning. And there's some reference to both what Douglas had to say in 1859 and some of the other press had to say in 1859 in terms of what Fielder is pointing out here is that even from the beginning, there was literally the day after he was killed, there was already this discussion of why are people trying to depict John Brown as crazy? He wasn't crazy, or some saying he had to have been crazy because, as Fielder says here, he was seen as a traitor to white supremacy. She then also, Fielder makes a really good point here in pointing out that while John Brown was hung for violently trying to free Black people, both Abraham Lincoln, the so-called great emancipator, and Andrew Johnson, his successor, pardoned soldiers who fought with the Confederacy. So it's like, hold up, son. Why is John Brown getting hung? And then a few years later, you're pardoning and healing everyone because they weren't seen as being treacherous. They were fighting, those white folks, North and South, were fighting for either the Union or their Southern Confederacy. Neither of them were killing each other for Black people.
Aha! Aha!
So for the perspective of Lincoln and Johnson, everybody could be forgiven in terms of their participation in the Civil War, but John Brown's and them can't be. The point was not lost on Brown's contemporaries. An 1861 newspaper piece asked the question, why was John Brown hung? Criticizing the pardoning of Confederate soldiers and concluding with the clear moral fighting for slavery is justifiable, fighting for freedom is treason. The pardoning of Confederates stands in contrast to the execution of Brown and 6 other participants in the Harper's Ferry raid, including Shields Green. By the way, speaking of the indigenous, to give just one example, during the Dakota War, Lincoln abetted the largest formal mass execution in U.S. history, allowing 38 Dakota Sioux to be hanged in Makato, Minnesota in 1862. So again, this man who's all about the forgiveness of the whites is all about the punishment of everyone, including whites, if they fight for and kill whites for black people. The perpetual image of Brown's madness stands apart from the possibility of this line of defense. It is not framed as a mitigating factor for his actions, but as a point to additional degradation. Another interesting point that Fielder makes. Nobody, and to her point about the ableism in all this, like nobody says, oh, he was crazy and therefore we should understand and you know, forgive and appreciate what he was doing. Or, you know, if he just wasn't so insane, he would have done it more peacefully, or he would have just waited a few years or like 5 more minutes, not a few years. I'm tripping. He would have waited like 5 more minutes and joined the Union Army. And then he could have done exactly what he was doing, but not as a traitor, because he would have been doing it for the Union and not for black people. But instead, as Fielder points out, they just double down. No, he was both insane, and that's why he did it, and that's why he should be more condemned. Frederick Douglass wrote again shortly after his death that Brown was not insane. Osborne Perry Anderson, who fought with Brown at Harper's Ferry, was the only black participant known to escape following the raid. He acknowledged that Brown did not initiate but responded to white violence, writing in his account that Brown regarded slavery as a state of perpetual war against the slave and was fully impressed with the idea that himself and his friends had the right to take liberty and to use arms in defending the same. You know what?
Now listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
Absolutely. And I love this. Slavery was perpetual war against the slave, meaning, again, as I was recently looking at this point about structural violence, that's the structural violence. The response to that is righteous, is not to be defined as violence in the same way. Manisha Sina describes Brown Liberty Guard in Kansas alongside the various black militias in the North and Canada West, which were the precursor to the Union Army's black regiments. So again, this even making, I don't know that those of the time would have agreed with this, but this is the point that should have been understood and what should have both protected the life of John Brown in his life and protected his legacy as a hero since. Because he was already doing what others were doing that preceded what was considered the heroism of the Union Army. It is in the context of black abolitionism and not white abolitionism that Brown's violence becomes even more vivid. In the pages of the Anglo-African magazine, for example, writers did not shy away from discussing abolitionist violence. Harper's Ferry was explicitly compared to Nat Turner's insurrection. Harriet Jacobs' tribute to John Brown, planned as the last chapter of her 1861 narrative, Incidents of the Life of a Slave Girl, was omitted at the urging of her editor, Lydia Maria Child, who argued that the tribute did not fit well with the rest of Jacobs' narrative. Child did approve some violent representations in Jacobs' narrative, even asking her to expand upon the violence enacted upon Jacobs' black community in retaliation for Nat Turner's insurrection. The emendation of Jacobs' narrative of emancipation suggests that white violence against black people was explicable, even though it was reprehensible. But the retaliatory violence could not be incorporated into this story. And there it is again. Please tell us more about how bad you all suffered after Nat Turner did his thing. Sure, Lydia. But let me also tell you about what John Brown did to them. No. It doesn't fit well with the rest of your narrative. So as white people in the 21st century consider their roles as abettors of or adversaries against racism, the resonance of white abolitionism rings loudly. And by the way, it just occurred to me, since we were talking recently about Ibram Kendi and his definitions of being an anti-racist and how to be an anti-racist, let's bring it back to this. As white people in the 21st century consider their roles as either abettors of or adversaries against, let the resonance of white abolitionism ring loudly. Considering the white violence and ableist racism that contextualize the image of Brown as madman, we might better recognize the racialization of violence and madness that continues to condemn and pathologize pro-Black emancipatory efforts, past and present. Absolutely.
Now listen.
Because this is a better way of putting what I've been trying to say whenever I'm talking about John Brown or George Jackson or the BLA, about Al-Aqsa flood, about whatever. We don't have to do it. Let me speak for me. I'm not going to do it. I'm afraid. I'm scared. I am way too bougie and liberal. I got way too much comforts to risk. At minimum, though, however, I will not contribute and support any of the pathologizing of any of those activities. And at minimum, I think in terms of public-facing, overt, sanctioned, legal, friendly YouTube podcast work, that's the bare minimum of responsible broadcasting. We cannot pathologize emancipatory efforts, even if, like myself, too scared, too bougie and liberal, too much ivory tower, Morgan State. Oh, forget all the complaints and the years of criticism and struggle. Morgan State treats me so well. Tree-lined streets. Did you hear the dogs barking? Can you hear the birds? But at minimum, I'm not going to pathologize. Okay, now we can move back on to some silliness before we wrap up. John Brown realized that class war is an actual war. And the more I'm reading that thesis I mentioned the socialism of John Brown, I'm telling you, John, I mean, dude, swimming pools, dude was on it. Dude. I don't know what we were gonna do with his Calvinism, but you know, he would have definitely struggled with that. We would have to struggle with him around that. But oh, hold on one second. Oh, campus visit in the morning. I can't. Please like, share, subscribe, support the platform however you can. While I'm taking this quick moment to respond to an important text. Sorry, everybody. Okay. To be honest with you, I started to want to do something about this Michael Eric Dyson, Drake, Kendrick Lamar stuff, but I'm so irritated with I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Just quickly though, let me just say this. Michael Eric Dyson is saying all that he's saying now about Kendrick and Drake because he wants to reposition himself for the 2028 election cycle as relevant and meaningful and important to the campaign of whatever Democrat is going to be running. This is, I'm following the logic of the late, great Glenn Ford when he and I debated Dyson and James Peterson at the Real News Network in 2015. that after Dyson had written some silly article in defense of Hillary Clinton and condemning everybody to his left, Glenn Ford pointed out, essentially, you're only doing this because you want to be seen as relevant to the Democratic Party, through whom you will get platformed and money and relevance and so on and so forth. I think this is just another play to do that. So when he comes back to do this whole thing about Kendrick saying "not like us" is a Trumpian ICE agent adjacent condemnation of diversity and the other, and is some attempt to attach complexion and percentages of blackness to some sort of authenticity, and then is also falsely reducing blackness to being defined by Compton. And he's doing it with all the alliteration and the church speak. Just remember, if you don't already, if any of you ever need any of this, just remember all of that is rhetorical flourish as presentation of himself. It's him presenting himself at the feet of the Democratic Party. And then he does it on Jay Moore's podcast, which is another silly place to do it. Publicly apologizing for self-confessed joke stealing a comedian. Yeah, he gets on my nerves too. So that was it. I had a whole bunch of other stuff set up, but I don't even feel like doing it. Because I just can't, because that's ultimately all that I think we need to know. The rest of his arguments are sick. The dude has been wrong since 1992 when he put himself in that congressional, I think it's 92, defense of hip hop's autonomy by saying, don't censor us, don't what's the word? It was a false allegiance with hip hop that completely misunderstood the political economy of music, the impact of the corporate world on the music and the art and the et cetera and so forth. And he was essentially helping, as many in my generation did mistakenly, in wanting to defend the cultural art form, lost sight of the political economy and the context in which the art form was being produced. And in our defense of it, Dyson at the time, among those leading the way, said, you know, nobody get involved with censoring and condemning and critiquing these young people. Let them do whatever they want. Let them sign whatever contract and do whatever they want. Not realizing how much of that was just turning it over to the colonial apparatus and having it be used against us over all these years. So that's why he can come back now and present himself as somebody with all this knowledge and deep background. Of course, his friendship with Jay-Z is a whole other thing. I mean, it's just so many contradictions and messes that, but okay. What I did want to do is look at this right here, because not that it's any more important, but a number of you sent this to me, and it's just a short clip. So I know, again, I just want to preface and say I'm only responding to this very short clip, and I know I'm wrong, because as soon as it's over, they get into all the real deep, heavy stuff that accurately cleans all of this up. But here we go.
Three sort of sets of Black people that are in the diaspora. They're the Africans who were enslaved in their own home.
Yes.
You know, if you were Kikuyu or you were, you know, a Xhosa person in South Africa, they enslaved your ass right there. And when they were done enslaving you, you got rid of them for the most part. They either left or they left behind their colonial system, but they colonized you in your own place where you live. Then you have the people who were stolen, and you either went to a country like a Brazil or to the Caribbean. And so you experience just horrific, degrading slavery, but that was about enslaving people and then using their bodies up and then letting them die and then going and getting more. And so you had a more holistically Black culture because you really maintained your Africanness in a lot of ways. And then when you died, they just went and got a different person. You weren't like being bred like cattle. Chattel slavery really only took place in the United States and Canada, but mainly, right? And so this is a different mentality. These people were told that slavery was endemic to being Black. The African Americans were sort of taught or told that just being Black or having any African ancestry meant that you were endemically a slave forever. That was not the case as much in the Caribbean or in Africa. They knew they had a 1,000-year-old culture in these African countries to fall back on to say, we're not endemically enslaved people. We don't come from slavery. Whereas in America, they tried to cut them off from their Africanness and say that Africanness doesn't matter. You're just a slave. Your whole history is a slave. You never learn anything about what your ancestral origins were or what kingdoms you came from. You never learned that. You just learned slavery, 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 slavery. And so Black slavery in the U.S. was just unique. But the other thing I think that people who are from like where our families are from, what they don't recognize is that that kind of slavery caused African Americans to produce, I would say, the most dominant cultural force that's ever lived.
And that's why we see it spread. That's why we see it spread everywhere.
It's everywhere, and it doesn't come.
All right, let me.
And it comes from Africa endemically, right? The food, the rice, the dishes they eat, the oxtail, everything. There's an Africanness to it, but its origin story is America.
154.
All right, yeah, these. So all right, so it's funny because Joy starts off by explaining what ultimately undermines this whole argument. When you are enslaved and colonized, quote unquote, at home, the home is not the home. It is not producing something authentically African or authentically whatever was that particular cultural, ethnic, tribal group. It's not reproducing that. So this idea that again, this idea that people on the continent and in the Caribbean have some more authentic and real connection to African culture, and that those here in the United States don't, I think is entirely wrong. And I'm happy to be updated on some literature. I know it's been a long time since I've read specifically around these kinds of arguments, but so yeah, but the tendency is to say all of this with this, I at least hear it as this condescension towards Black America, with this idea that somehow Black Americans are the most deficient and unaware and disconnected and culturally deformed and backwards and this of the entire diaspora. And I just don't think that there's any history or data to support that. I think as others have been, again, I'm biased by that sort of tradition, but as many in the African world in the United States have pointed out for a long time, and this is Kwame Ture's point, that the job of the conscious is to make the unconscious conscious of their unconscious behavior. The job of the conscious is to make the unconscious conscious of their unconscious behavior. And his point was that as it pertains to Black America, Black people here are doing all of these African things as well, as much, and as much as anyone else. It's just often unknown or unlabeled as such. And I think if you go throughout the Caribbean and throughout the continent, you see much of the same thing. So this idea that if you were enslaved and colonized on the continent of Africa, that automatically means you have this elevated level of knowledge about your past and your history and your culture that Black people here don't have. I just, it's again, I don't think the data supports that, especially when you go back to, I remember Asa Hilliard used to talk about this as well, that E.K. Oldham, Thomas Jesse Jones, and the third one, there was another one, that they all collaborated, I believe, in the 19th century to establish the way Africans in the continent in the West were all being educated, at least in the English-speaking empire. So the point being that no one was getting properly educated and culturally raised, and to the extent that there are differences, and obviously there are, they need to be understood as not as levels of cultural competency, but in the different ways that Africans have been removed from their cultural foundations or had those foundations distorted. So I you know, so it was just bizarre for her to start with that. And then again, to follow the often repeated but rarely explained with detail and data, this idea we're just supposed to take as oh yeah, that makes sense, which manifests, for instance, in the way that my former colleague at Morgan State, the former chair of the political science department, would sit on a panel next to me in front of the whole Morgan State University and sit there and just say confidently with zero data that Black Americans were culturally predisposed to crime in ways that people from his Caribbean community were not. And when asked for the data, he actually said, "I don't have to have any data, I observe." That's a direct quote. That is from the chair of political science. So anyway, but again, if fufu's good, and everybody has a version of it. Look, I get it. Oh, and that's the other part. So that's the one thing that FBA and ADOS often miss when we've had our issues where they miss some of my point, is that I'm not interested in some blind solidarity. I think everybody in the diaspora has to appreciate and properly respect everybody in the diaspora, including Black America. So, but that's the other point. So when they say that Black culture gets exported all around the world because it's essentially African and it's just what everybody naturally wants, they miss again the point of the political economy of music and colonial media and the role that this hegemon, this empire plays. So yes, what Black people produce, again, it's my bias. What Black America produces culturally and in many otherwise is my politically and otherwise is my bias. I have many preferences there. But I'm also aware that one of the reasons that, if not the main reason, that Black cultural expression is so well respected and known around the world is because the white corporations that own it put it there as part of their cultural imperialist effort. So in other words, I don't think that were England to have retained its dominance over the world, overshadowing the United States over these last 150 years, hip hop would not be as globally popular as it has become, and we might all be rocking more to Afrobeat, which is catching up now anyway. I don't know. My point is, but that's the reason, and they have these conversations much like Michael Eric Dyson was having in 1992 and since, absent an understanding or recognition of the political economy of media and music and the industry and all of that as well. It's just popular because it's good. No, that's not why anything is popular. In fact, nothing is popular because it's good. It may be good, but that's not why it's popular. So that's yeah. So All right, one more along those similar lines. I just want to play a clip of this, and I did mean to go watch the whole discussion, but I actually never got to the whole thing. So maybe watch some of it here. But I was sent this part here from a recent episode of Higher Learning with VanLathan, and this one there, it's featuring JaymeLawson, fresh off of One Battle After Another, right? Wasn't she in that?
These things together. We have Pearline herself. JaymeLawson is joining us today on Higher Learning. How are you doing, sister?
I'm good. I'm good. How y'all doing?
We're great.
We are fantastic.
Welcome,
Thank you for
Templeton.
asking.
Okay, you got one. You've done so many things. You've done so much stuff. Like we do a podcast here at the Ringer called The Midnight Boys. So, I know you as we talk about comic book movies, fandom, things like that. So I know you as a completely different person. I saw you as Pearline. I'm like, oh look, this is the mayor. So, but for you, you are now in one of those generational genre classic films, right? That's what Sinners has become. And I don't think that the conversation around the movie is going to stop anytime soon.
Right.
It's going to continue as people come to it to appreciate it even more. How does that feel? What is that like?
It's unreal, man. It's just, it's unreal, especially because of how people clung to it so quickly. It was one of those, like, we were filming on set and we all knew it was special, and you felt like, people are going to come to
Sinners, my
this.
fault.
They
Yeah,
will.
that's right.
They will find this project. You just didn't think they would find it in the matter of a weekend. and just love it
Sinners.
Like the way it's being
Sinners.
taken care of and loved and celebrated. 2 years later, it's like quite crazy.
Yeah, I can't get enough of it. I'm not like a crazy movie watcher, but I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've seen Sinners. And it's one of those movies where every single time you watch it, you just see and feel something different. And you talked about, like, you realized while you were filming it, you knew that this was something special, but also while you were filming it.
We had a really good discussion of this again yesterday in Newark,
like
by the
weight
way.
of the history
Shout
and
out
the
to that
culture, behind the story.
Did I feel the weight of the culture of the... I don't know that I did, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I was just enjoying it, because filming that was such a celebration. I mean, you got to think about, like, the first half of that film is nothing but seeing Black folks live in ecstasy, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of
Ecstasy?
just what
The first part of that film is Black folks living in ecstasy. Again, the film starts with them in the Jim Crow South with Smoke and Stack shooting a Black kid for stealing from them and being surrounded by the Klan and all this other kind of stuff, and then sharecropping. So
experience was for me was like, you just got to, like, enjoy. Like, we just enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the filming process. I think feeling the weight of anything came way after, like, after I watched it. There was, like, this awareness, right? There is the cultural, the historical background. You have that awareness, you have that prep, but
that's how
it
you
never
know.
felt heavy. That's how I answer that. I never felt heavy in the filming process, not once.
You are a young actress, and this film deals with a lot of I felt connected to it. I'm old, okay? So
how old are you, man?
I'm 45, okay?
Oh my God. And I'm
Really?
just
See?
old.
See?
That was that Don Cheadle, Kevin Hart moment. Damn.
You thought I was bullshitting, but I'm being for
I'm
real.
trying to get to
old,
the part,
right?
There was supposed to be a part where they were talking about representation.
Thank you. Look,
That's a nice way to say it.
Let me see if I can find. I thought I had it. That's why I thought it started there, but I feel like it's taking too long to get there. There was supposed to be a part about representation, and they don't. Did I put the wrong whatchamacallit in there? Let me see if I can find it. Sorry about this again. Let's see if I can find it again in here. Okay, here we go. Let's move here.
As you're having these conversations and just like seeing the representation of sinners and our stories and our culture and just Blackness and history and all of that, like, what conversations about representation in Hollywood do you still think need to happen?
Wow, the hate.
Oh, there are many. There are many. I think something I'm actively learning from Ryan with the making of Sinners and everything he does, you can feel it, like he makes it for us. Like you can tell that we are cared for in the projects he makes, and in doing that, he is still able to reach a global audience. And I am hopeful that the industry is.
So I just wonder how one thinks that happens. What or I'm fascinated at how, the way I really would want to say it is, I'm fascinated how this apparatus could create this as the almost logical conclusion that someone would make, that JaymeLawson here would make, without it raising concerns over contradictions or cognitive dissonance or something that is why, how what has to happen for a film both to, as she said, speak to us or have such care for Black people that also is going to attract a broader white audience, and even more importantly, white investment or support at the green lighting level and all of that from Hollywood. Because all I hear in that is the counterinsurgent propaganda, war, corruptive, co-optative. That's what I'm hearing in that. So I just wonder, anyway,
Paying attention that's not like some like anomaly, right? That can then become a norm where you can center and focus on Black stories and community. The way I was trained, right? In my schooling, I was always taught as an actor, right? To be very specific in my choices, right? It is through your specificity of choices that then there is a universality, that then anybody can then cling and find themselves in in the choices you make. But when you come to a thing and you're just general, you actually end up excluding everyone. That's the train of thought that I was raised with. So when I watch someone like Ryan, who's very specific in speaking to and upholding us, and then finding success of everybody being able to tap in and watch his stuff, I hope the industry is really paying attention and realizing that's not just a Ryan Coogler thing, that is a possibility, that can be a norm.
Oh, they're paying attention. And he was, again, as we talked about yesterday in Newark, in the Imperial 80s series with Jared Ware and MtumeGant, and I believe this was a discussion they had with Hiram Rivera about Rocky 3. This was the point that I admit, you know, and I do.
Money. You think I did this for money? I did this for credit. But you always for credit. Fuck my life. Fuck my life. I want the credit. The credit.
That's what from back at the beginning, from Fruitvale Station, my review of the film from the day after I saw it was saying, I don't know really who this Ryan Coogler dude is, but the way he made this film and the way the white world is talking about this film that's supposed to be about Oscar Grant and the Black community, he is going to have a long career. And then what did Mtume and Jared and Hiram point out? That before he even finished Fruitvale, he was already getting Creed. So Jamie is right. Except that they have already taken notice. They are already aware of those who are talented and capable of presenting stories that are ostensibly about someone else, but that actually appeal to a broader white audience, and of course, investment community. So, yeah.
In the industry. And that's how you tackle like representation, as opposed to just this general, like, let's just slap anything and everybody into anything and think that that's going to do something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's my hope.
Does our need for representation ever encumber our artists?
What do you mean? Say more.
The fact that, for example, there was a lot of conversation by me. Like I had a problem with the character of Perfidia Beverly Hills in One Battle After Another. I talked a lot about what I thought the character represented and how the character
a whole bunch
was
of
written.
characters.
However, I must hear the argument that Perfidia Beverly Hills is a character that is written. There's not a perfect character and does not have to represent the Black Madonna of motherhood and perfect.
But written by who? For who? That's the thing. So they're asking this question about perfect representation, and again, it's absent at least a centering, if not a recognition at all of the process. So yeah, he's right to have a problem with that character, but then to backtrack and excuse it by saying, "Well, it's just a character that was written that someone else has to portray." That's the point. It was written by someone to portray this Black woman in a specific way for a specific reason. So when Jamie is talking about in a moment ago about this, about being intentional, they are being intentional when they green light and write and select the directors and the actors and they are intentional in making sure that all of these issues and symbols and presentations and depictions are done in a very certain intentional specific way.
Revolutionary action. It is somebody's artistic vision, and then the character was interpreted by Tiana Taylor. However, as a Black man, there's a certain way that I want to see Black women represented on screen. Does represent,
and that's where the Vernon philosophy becomes really important. He said, as a Black man, there's certain ways I want to see a Black woman depicted on screen. Absolutely. That is one, that is exactly that is as good a place to start as any. But two, because that is understood by those who are greenlighting, producing, funding, investing in, screening, that is putting in the thousands of theaters or these films, they're saying, we know you want that. We know you want that. And we know, Van, that your community has been struggling mightily for a long time around that particular issue of representation. We also know that we have a very particular imperialist, settler, colonial, capitalist, white supremacist purpose and function for this media. This is propaganda. This is counterinsurgency. So therefore, we're going to attempt either to give you the Black womanhood depicted that you want, or as we're seeing here, have it discussed or framed in a certain way when that depiction is not to your liking. So that we can have it come back to, well, we don't need the perfect representation. And it starts to sound again like the perfect victim thing. We need film, we need the Trayvon Martin of films before we can start raising questions about anyone being George Zimmerman or having the intellectual equivalent of George Zimmerman portray, done to us via film. And that's why the Vernon philosophy, I think, is important, that we have to be, especially when we like something, but even when we don't, critical of the process that is producing and delivering or imposing that art.
Representation ever hinder Black artists' ability to go out and create art without always having to put what we think a positive image is on the screen?
Right, because I think the response, your response to wanting to see Black women a certain way is because you are feeling the constriction and restriction, right? Like, I think if that didn't exist, I don't think that there would be such a delicacy or care, right? We would allow for our experience to span a spectrum. But when there feels like there is a constriction to always or only ever show certain things, then we feel this like tightness of like, well, no, we need to be represented in this way. Hence why I love the character of Perline, because she's causing all this conversation where it's like, she's not a perfect character. And I'm not interested in representing Black folks as perfect, right? I don't think that does us any good, because we're not. I think the whole point is that we get to be nuanced, like truly nuanced, where we can.
But it's not, we're not, Black people are not depicted as nuanced. That's the problem, and that's what Van is pointing to. Black people are depicted in very limited, shallow, narrow ways. And when that is criticized, we constantly get this whole thing here of we have the range of blackness. We have these people in our communities. We have this diversity. So we can't be mad when we see what we consider to be negative depicted images, because that is in the community. We have all these differences. But no, the point is that's all that we get. We don't get honest, sound depictions of Black communities, radical Black communities in particular. We don't get those. That's really the point. But this is the same answer. I mean, literally my entire adult life since I've been focused on this kind of work, these answers JaymeLawson is giving it, and I know it's not, but it performs as if there is a script, because this is exactly what people have been saying for, just in my lifetime, decades. Jared, stop criticizing the horrible image of Black people that you see in these films. These Black people exist. We have a range. We have a diversity. We are new, but white people and white film supporters are not looking for that nuance. They only want that. That's why in that movie, you get a Black woman on the top of a car shooting a machine gun aimlessly into the air. Her name being Black Pussy, saying this is what Black power looks like. That's not nuance. That's not diversity. That's not a sophisticated look at Blackness. That's, again, trifling backwards stereotyping that has been going on for a long time.
Agree or disagree with the choices that are made on screen. And that's how you fully restore our dignity and our humanity, right? It's not just in this.
And by the way, dignity is not going to be restored by character depictions of Black people, being depicted on screen. In part because there's never going to be a sustained range of Blackness. So, for instance, you could have the range of Blackness and the diversity and the nuance all within just the radical left. If you took out all of the stereotypes and went, from the bougie to the ghetto and went all the way over just to the Black left, as whatever that category means, you would have all kinds of ranges and diversity and differences and this is and that's and that, but none of that is depicted. So there is not going to be, and if the argument is the more we see films like Sinners and One Battle After Another, Black people will achieve humanity, and that's not more realistic.
A pedestal, right? Getting rid of in some contexts, there's like the magical Negro, right? There's this idea of Black excellence and what that looks like.
And I don't know if she's probably just, we all do it. I'd certainly do it. So I'm not, but I think she misspoke. Well, she definitely misspoke. So the magic Negro, which unfortunately is attributed to Spike Lee, is not about Black excellence. It's really more to my point. The magic Negro is the Black character in a film that exists only to help the white character, the white protagonist, transcend, overcome some problem. And that's sort of the point, that the range of Blackness is ultimately limited in really a grand over in a writ large kind of way, being magical Negroes, because whether it's the official form that Spike meant in film or more to my point here, the point is Blackness is depicted on screen to help white people transcend and white people rationalize and white people feel better. So I'll save that for a second. Let me just
let us breathe and be in all forms.
How do I?
That's the
How do we?
argument
Let us breathe and be in all forms. None of those forms ever can count that again, that expansive category of black left.
Identify the line. When do we know that something is? What I mean is, how do we know, as an audience, as people who are also trying to create, as people who are trying to enjoy this stuff? How do you identify the line of when something is artistic reflection of imperfection? When does it cross into exploitation? When does it cross into somebody just doesn't know how to write us, right?
So I'm gonna leave it there. I'll put the link if folks want to see the whole thing in the show description. But let me answer the question as if Van was asking me, which of course he wasn't. Mtume gives us the answer for that, and he said it even in the clip I played earlier from our discussion yesterday. We know it's exploitation and it's crossed the line once it's part of the first cinema production apparatus. That's ultimately my point about that's why I've been saying for years, the Vernon philosophy is an oversimplification of much more deep, maybe even complicated thought and analysis. But the first cinema apparatus, anything that's coming out of these mainstream production houses where Paul Thomas Anderson is writing a script about, or allegedly in part involving black people, that's it right there. That's exploitation. Is the moment it's attached to any of that, the moment if you've had to click on your Netflix, your Hulu, your Paramount, your Disney, whatever, the moment you've clicked on one of them, that's exploitation. So you can watch it, enjoy it, laugh, cry, your favorite, it's exploitation. If it's not third cinema, it's exploitation. Even if it's good, even if you like it, and by good I mean entertaining, it's never going to be good politically. So that's how you know. By the way, that's the other reason why, even from years as even a low level, local journalist, radio, whatever, I don't really like talking to celebrities or artists who are not already committed to a third cinema life. It's just always been that way. It's not that they're stupid. It's not that they're bad. It's that they are in the impossible position of, JaymeLawson is giving that interview not because she wants to talk to Van and Rachel about blackness and art and politics. She's there to promote herself. She's there to promote her movie. She's there to advance her career. What else could she say? That's why it always sounds like a script when they say what they say, because it's the same. It's the only acceptable answer you can give. It's a version of what we used to see in sports of, I just doing the best I can out there, just try to help my team. I know it's different nowadays. Everybody talks trash, but it was that kind of thing. It's like we're nuanced, and so when you see us depicted negatively, just understand that that's part of the black experience. But it's like, well, when do we see you depicted properly? So it's yeah. So I mean, so that was the part I was asked to look at, and that's just my thoughts. It's why it's difficult to find good conversations about pop culture and pop media that aren't that involve people who are associated with those industries. It just makes sense. It's not even. Did she ask the age of her character in Sammy's? Maybe I'm missing something. I didn't hear that part of the. Exactly. I'm here so I won't get a fine. And salute to all the Africans in here, as he said. I used to have that as a drop. That was great. So all right, I think, yeah, we could. I'm gonna leave it there. I think I'm gonna leave it there. I don't need to say anything. Yeah, that's that. That's that. VanLathan. Yep. Yeah. 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 All right, folks. Oh yeah, no, you definitely that's why I'm here, Chitty Matcha, because I'm not invited. I got nowhere to be. Like my godfather says, I'm never surprised when I'm asked to leave. I'm only surprised by how long I'm invited to stay. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not good for the social life. But I listen, everybody. I really appreciate you coming through today, as always. And to those who will see this later, same to you. I appreciate you. Wait a second. Did I? Yeah, I hit all of these. Wait a second. Well, first of all, welcome, Trevor Gwynn. I saw Templeton earlier. Thank you. Welcome. Oh, is the GoodLordBird better than Sinners? Ooh. I'm going to say yes, because I'm talking about the book. I didn't see the series. I'm going to say way better, because for all of its flaws, it still centers somebody who's all about Black liberation, not Black business, not about just having one good night, not about the survival of just one twin and his girlfriend. Quite the opposite. JohnBrown was saying, I will give the lives of my sons and family and myself as I take a few along the way, because slavery got to go. Slavery got to go. So yeah, I think it's way better. I think it's way better. You saying no? You saying Sinners is better? Did you read the book, GoodLordBird? Again, I didn't see the series, so I'm not talking about the series. But there's no way. I mean, I'm not going to. Like again, aesthetically, you could say, like again, I enjoy the cinematic display that even a Coogler can produce, but I'm not. I mean, if we're talking about, I guess I am saying that I would rather be down with the white abolitionist who's getting it in for real than the Black bourgeoisie. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, there's some things that would be missed, unfortunately. And I would be making a sacrifice for sure. But, you know, and you know, even when they were being gunned down at the end, or whenever, the whites and sinners weren't really afraid. But in the GoodLordBird, it's several hundred pages of white folks terrified at the idea of JohnBrown and his crew coming through. And I was like, I love that. I love that part. And I love that part even in the Emperor film. But the GoodLordBird doesn't offer some statement about the boundaries of Black ontology. All right, well, you've gone past, yeah. So you're saying Sinners makes a statement about the boundaries of Black ontology? Actually, I don't know that I agree with. First of all, I'd have to think about. I usually, my joke is usually when I see the word ontology, I start to think I'm out of my league. But I often also sometimes think, not you, Dwayne, that it gets thrown around in all kinds of ways. But yeah, you know. Dwayne, you know what? If I put the link in there, you want to jump up here and you want to join me and discuss this a little bit? You were talking about the film. I didn't see the film series. So Sinners, let's see, makes a statement on the boundaries of Black ontology. Okay, yes, I think I get that. So does the GoodLordBird. I don't understand how you're not seeing that, how you wouldn't be seeing that there too. Slavery was itself an institution addressing itself to Black ontology, no? To its definition, its meaning, its stripping of humanity, no? And John Brown is saying it got to go. And everybody that supports this assault on Black ontology got to go. Let me catch up. I mean, I do have a few minutes. I'm until Morgan offers a better salary and better work conditions for Jerry. I don't even know what the first part of that was. I'm sure it is funny though. He was only able to kill them in the end as long as he died. So August, what do you mean by this? Because if you're talking about John Brown was not only able to kill them as long as he died, and he at least had a goal of not just dying, as far as I understand. But I might not have your point. Yeah, I'm slowly beginning to get into it. Refuse. It has all that describing 5 forms of resistance. Okay. But what are you saying it has all of it? What is the that it has all of? And what is the that was referenced in the end of Sinners? Ontology and epistemology always get me in my head, Lee. So we had this professor, man, shout out to Professor Hyman, had that nice Jewish name, though he was all Black, and he used to talk about, he introduced us to cosmology, axiology, and ontology, and I've been struggling ever since. Oh, right. Until Morgan, yeah, I'm hanging out with John Brown and that crew until I get that better salary from the Boule Black community. Yeah. That's how I feel. I know what the word ontology means, but I'm not always clear on what people mean when they use the term. But although I may not always know that I fully grasp its meaning either, but I think I do, at least enough to say that I think Dwayne and I just disagree. Oh, drop the link. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Hold on. There you go. What would you say in a basic sense? Ontology is just another word for operationalization, is how blackness is operationalized or engendered. That's interesting. Is that how we need to get some real experts up here for that? But I tend to think of it as just as I thought Dwayne was saying, that ontology is how one relates or is related to the society that they're in, so in this sense, the personhood, how much that is considered in a given society. And I'm sure that's not correct or fully explanatory, but that's how I start my understanding of it. So when Dwayne says Sinners shows the limits of Black ontology, meaning that they cannot achieve personhood and humanity in this society, or there are limitations to that. I think that's what slavery is doing. I mean, by definition, it's saying your humanity stops at the level of, you're not a human at the level of chattel, and therefore you're socially dead, which is where I started to find myself in agreement. So, but here we go. Welcome, Dwayne. Let me see. So welcome.
Hey, how are you? Say, there's a slight delay on my side. I think it's because I have my YouTube thing still playing. Give me just a moment here so I don't get it.
Yeah, ontology is the state of being, so how being relates to whatever. Right. Yes. Thank you, Dre, for saying it better than I did. That's how I understand it. The state of being and how the being relates to whatever, in this case, this society.
Yeah. Ways of being is just the simple definition that I've been exposed to. Basically,
right.
I won't pretend to be. I want to pretend.
No, neither of us are going to pretend. We're not going to be. Our fakery would be exposed immediately if we did that. So, but go ahead and so lay out. So talk to me about that. So now, just to be clear, you've seen the GoodLordBird. I've listened to the book.
Okay.
We've both seen Sinners.
Yes.
So where I don't think it'll become a problem because we're not getting into the weeds, but where there might only be a difference is whatever differences are in the series versus what are in the book. And I don't know that the series is that much different from the book. I don't know. So, but go ahead and break it down. So why does Sinners do what the GoodLordBird doesn't?
From my understanding, well, what I'm seeing in Sinners is its major message is these boundaries between, who gets to enter into the cultural intimacy of that club, of that nightclub, and who does not. And the invaders, the classic invaders are the vampires, which are, basically stand-ins for, whiteness, white hegemony, white culture, white cultural appropriation, very pointedly using, Irish as the figure in which that's embodied. It's one of the things that actually, initially attracted me to the movie Blade, because the first movie Blade, which I read in that particular manner as well, is that, I never liked the whole vampire Blade. I like the vampire killer Blade, basically. And so this is what I see in that movie, and they're talking about some very complex things. How, and I forget the big brother's name, who was outside basically urinating outside the club, and he gets bit, and you have to invite him in, but we have to recognize that sometimes these vampires come with black bodies, once they get taken, they're black bodies, and that they should not be allowed within the context of the club, so to speak, with both things going on inside of it. The sacred and the profane is happening inside the club. That that's who we are, because as African people in the diaspora, the sacred and the profane seem to live oftentimes in the same bodies variously, and we have musicians who have dealt with this. Little Richard and his whole Judeo-Christian battles with his latent or overt homosexuality. Same thing with Prince, doing some of the same things as we see it in Marvin Gaye and very many other people. It's sort of like the great dilemma of the soul man is having that inner battle between the sacred and the profane. And so I think that was embodied inside the club, but more profoundly is Sammy calling down these spirits that really illustrated our ways of being from the continent forward. What people don't maybe not is common knowledge, but the first image that you see in Sinners during that montage scene is a brother playing an instrument called a kalam, an elder brother playing an instrument called a kalam. This brother's name is Papa Titos Sampa. who is currently an artist. He's living in New Orleans, right? A great musician that's been around for decades on jazz recordings of all sorts of avant-garde jazz, and also with these Congolese dance troupes all around the world, in Europe, on the continent, and East and West Coast, right? That's the first image. And I think it's really important that we understand that it's Congo, because, as Robert Farris Thompson and others have stated, that our people come from Congo, like Kingdom of Congo, Central Africa, as much as the West Coast of Africa. I thought that was a profound he's sort of like the centerpiece in that whole rotating montage scene. And I thought it was very profound that it started right there. And it's at least from my way of viewing it, it started with the essence of who we are here in the diaspora. And that's what was inside of that club. That's what Sammy originally called down. And all the other things, all the other styles of music and things seem to spin off of that particular point. And so that's the profound statement about our way of being, that I'm referring to. And I don't see that in the Good Lord Bird. I don't see African spirituality, acknowledgement of ancestral connections like that, a direct statement about our origins in Congo, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I'll admit too, maybe another look at Good Lord Bird would be good for me, because I know now that was a few years ago, right?
Yeah. I'm way late to the whole thing, and the book was apparently written in 2013. So, and the series came out, I think, in 2020. So, okay. All those points are well taken, and so if the standard is, to your point, which depicts Black ontology better, more fully, then you're right, Sinners would win. So I don't dispute that. There's nothing that I recall in the Good Lord Bird that would address itself in any way to challenge what you said about Sinners. To that, you might, if I remember correctly at all, you might get some allusions to being an African people coming, JohnBrown, in fact, refers to, according to the book, to Black people as Africans a few times. Not that, again, I'm not suggesting that a white man calling Black people Africans is the same as what you're describing there. I'm just trying to point out that I'm, in fact, agreeing with you that Good Lord Bird doesn't do that. I'm just admitting my bias is that when I see or hear you describe what you describe in Sinners, my reading of that is this is the counterinsurgent hustle being played to justify or distract from the fact that the political underpinnings of the film and the work are so bad or lacking from my point of view. So I'm admitting, and this is maybe a flaw. This is maybe, I've heard people joke, and maybe not so much joke, that this is an inherent flaw to my mixture. But I'm more moved by the overt material political act being depicted in hostile violence, in hostile aggression against an institution of enslavement, than I am about symbolic representations that, with all due respect, I think a lot of people would have to have already known or gone into the film to fully appreciate. And then once we see that, we're expected to have that substitute for the fact that politically this film isn't doing anything. But I'm just admitting I'm just acknowledging a bias here. The Good Lord Bird doesn't do any of certainly commensurate with what you're talking. Doesn't do any of what you're describing. I'm trying to think of any of the discussion of spirituality at all would have been in the context of John Brown's Christianity and how well or not others were meeting his standards. So no, in terms of the African experience and all of that, you don't get that in the Good Lord Bird. And I've never gotten the impression from James McBride that was his lane anyway. But yeah, I'm just a sucker for the real life based clarity around the political act of killing those who were supporting the institution of enslavement, as opposed to what we get in Sinners. But yeah, I grant that. I don't. So
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, beautiful. I think what we're talking about is oftentimes what the discussion comes down to between, those of us who, advocate for, African revolution and the sunsetting on imperialism and white hegemony, those types of things, is that on the one side of the equation, there's always those of us who feel like there's a revolutionary act in certain cultural, practices and retaining those things, in that here goes the word again, we decolonize our ontology as well as material things such as land, not to the exclusivity of it, and not, to romanticize the cultural act, but definitely to have the balance and understand that both things need to take place, that we need to decolonize ourselves, our ontology, as well as these material things. So it's a balance and a call and response in between those two things. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just to balance and maybe call in response to what I was talking about earlier, I would suggest this is so when we were talking earlier about how the story of Shields Green had to be told from legends, because apparently nobody knows what really happened. What my point would be, what I would like to see in a better world, for instance, Ryan Coogler, instead of doing a film Sinners, if he had said, let me do the Shields Green story, then if you give me, in the context of telling Shields Green's story, the Congolese references, the African reference, the spirituality, maybe there's some, who knows? We could do anything with that, because we don't allegedly we don't know the story. Shields could go out in the movie. He's depicted as running on an escaped African who helps him hide and further his escape. What if that person introduces him to some sort of spirituality, or some reference to the African world that inspires Shields Green on, or he knew something from his, and then have it still connect back to, but at the end of the day, I wanted my son to know that I killed the man that hit him, and then I went to kill everybody else that tried to support this system that put him in this place in the first place. That would be the ideal for me. And that way we could get the representation, the ontological representation you're talking about, that beyond it just being symbolic, and have it be attached both to alleged real history, but also some sort of material struggle and some sort of, like, instead of vampires, let that cathartic expression play out in the context of telling some of these real histories. But anyway, that's just something, 2Fs, thank you very much. Yeah, I gotta go too. I've run way over from what is my Quadwo. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, that's fine. Yeah, Quadwo.
Let me give you any last thoughts or responses, and I appreciate you being here and being in the comment, and then accepting the invitation. I appreciate it.
Oh, wow. Then the feeling is mutual, brother. I'm a fan. I've been watching the show for a long time, watching you on other shows for a long period of time, and I appreciate you, inviting me on. My birthday was yesterday, so this is my birthday present.
Hey, happy birthday, many more. I appreciate that, and anytime we can always find you. We can even build and pick a time to do something. Wow. Find your favorite writing on ontology. We can build on that at one point. You know what I'm saying? Beautiful. Yeah, but definitely. Happy birthday.
Oh, right on.
Right on. Yeah. But no, thank you very much. This was great. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Yes, indeed. Peace. Yeah, that was dope. I like that. Yeah. And definitely send me, feel free, anybody email me. I mixwhatilike@gmail.com. If we can I don't mind. I like homework assignments, and then we can chop it up. Speaking of which, you know what? Oh man, I just got sent something. I know I said I gotta go, but all right, I'm gonna my bad. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I can't, I don't know what it is. I'm just looking at it. Oh my God. All right, one more thing. Let's look at Pinky Cole on Earn Your Leisure. Oh my God. Where's the sound? Where's the sound? Where's the sound? Oh, maybe is there no sound?
Piece of real
Here we
advice
go.
for every single entrepreneur in the room is do not make yourself a personal guarantor on nothing in your business. Do you hear what I just said to you? Nothing in your business, because we all have these dreams that like the business is going to work. You never really think of the bad times, and I don't want you to, but you also got to get honest and real. What if something happens? You do not want to be personally liable. That's the first thing. The second thing that I would tell you is as you grow your
Actually, I thought that was always the point. That was like the step one, an LLC, a limited liability company or corporation. That's the point, right? And in the corporation documentary that I used to show, they would show you have the company in the middle, and then all the individuals that sign on to the company, right, become the spokes in the wheel. But the company is the entity that can only be sued for its assets, not the individual signers on to the LLC. So why would anybody start a business and not do it that way? I would have thought that. I thought all entrepreneurs knew that.
your business, you are only as good as the talent you employ. Okay? Wow. You got good talent, you build a good culture. You build a good culture, you build a good business. You build a good business, you're getting $500,000 deals. Okay? If you have bad talent, your culture is terrible. People only show up for a paycheck. If they only show up for a paycheck, then the customer will feel it. If the customer will feel it, they will not come back and support you. And then you looking up trying to pay your bills and trying to figure it out. Real advice. And the last thing that I would tell you, and this was a hard lesson that I learned. If you got people next to you that are ride or die, that's helping you to build your company, even though it's yours, incentivize them. Give them equity into that business, y'all. Make sure that you show them love, because guess what? There's some people, you probably got somebody beside you that work harder than you. Show them that you appreciate them. Show them that you rock with them, because their wins and your wins can really be the same. And what I learned in business is you can go farther together. I seen that, okay? You can go farther together. That's my advice. And good luck to every single entrepreneur out here. $1 billion businesses only. Yes.
$1 billion businesses only. So if the ethic is you can go farther together, then why not just do socialism? Look, I don't know what I literally just got sent that. I couldn't resist. But listen, I don't know. I think the best advice would be that be more realistic. Most businesses aren't going to do well. Most Black-owned businesses that target Black consumers are not going to do very well. And you should have low-level expectations. If you expect to have, in terms of business success, if you expect to become a billion-dollar business, you're likely going to lose exclusive control and ownership. You're going to need to bring in all kinds of investors, and I don't know. And what Black-owned billion-dollar businesses are there? Actually, that is a really good question. I know there are a few Black billionaires, but what Black-owned billion-dollar businesses are there? I think yeah. So I don't know. What's the chat? What are you all saying? What's the better answer to this? I mean, I thought it was post bankruptcy because I thought this was brand new, but maybe look, I didn't do any I just literally just got that sent and couldn't give all the hard workers equity in the company. There you go. Yeah. I'm gonna sign up to be a speaker at one of these events and bait and switch them with some social. I would like to actually. I was gonna say, if you could do it with some safety and security elements involved, because I would be curious to see what the response would be. Like, would they try to Sandman? What was, oh man, I want to say Sandman Sims, but that can't be right. From the old Apollo days, they're gonna send him out to come with the hook and drag you off the stage. No, I'm hanging up. This is I've been doing. I appreciate the super chat right on time before ending the stream. Yeah, we're about to wrap up. There are 0 Black-owned billionaire businesses, but Black capitalist aspirers will take that as a challenge and say they want to make the exactly. You're right. It's like you're right. They'll just take it as a challenge. You're right, Jared. Ain't no, but I'll be the first. I'm gonna be the first one. Oh, golly, God. Oh, goobly goop, man. Where's Grady when you need him? Jay-Z said he's a businessman. So maybe Jay-Z's the only one. We do. I'm not, I honestly, my area of focus and my knowledge is not where it needs to be. So if I have to sometimes leave it to others to do some of the more heavy lifting, intellectual and political heavy lifting. But you are right. I'm long overdue myself for a refocus on Sudan and Sahel. And the problems in Haiti, USA, Brazil, Cuba are the same as they are in Africa. Absolutely. And so I don't dispute that. And if that's a critique, I accept it. If it's an encouragement, I accept it as well. Absolutely. So yeah. So let's do that. So let's all get out of here and go pay attention to something more serious. Go learn something about the Sahel and get off of this silly stream that I'm doing. Enough of
Is JaymeLawson in class today? JaymeLawson, are you here? Oh yes, you are.
Let's
ain't going on some bitch ass TV show gonna make you some kind of hero.
Exactly. Peace, everybody. Only if you're willing to fight for it, like Fred Hampton used to say. Please go support Black Liberation Media. Check our Saturdays with Renee special from Newark yesterday. It was great. Salute to everybody. Thanks everybody for coming through, and to those who will see this later, peace as well to you on those same standards. And to the youngins,
y'all gotta stop letting these who wasn't there try to rewrite the history, man. I saw this for myself.
Catch you next time with
what do you sacrifice? Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago for which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, have set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? Condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.